The massive space station hung in the darkness like a jewel. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the horizon's edge, and watched it grow bigger on the screen. He held a cup of coffee in one hand and smiled. This was it. First contact with alien life. Humanity's big moment to join the galactic community. Jake was supposed to be wearing his fancy uniform, the one with all the medals and the stiff collar that made his neck itch. Instead, he wore his normal work clothes. His first officer, Lisa Grant, had stopped trying to make him change an hour ago. "They're calling us again," said Amy Richardson from her station. She handled all the communications. "The aliens want us to listen to their welcome speech." "How long is it?" Jake asked. 47 minutes. Jake took a drink of his coffee. "Yeah, that's not happening. Tell them hello and that we'll dock in 20 minutes. Lisa walked over to stand beside him. "You know they spent months preparing this ceremony, right? Every alien species sends their best soldiers for first contact. Lisa, we're not soldiers. We're scientists and engineers who happen to know how to shoot straight if we need to." Jake shrugged. If they wanted a military parade, they should have called us earlier. The ship docked smoothly. The airlock opened. On the other side stood the tallest reptile creature Jake had ever seen. It was almost 8 feet tall with green scales and golden eyes. Other aliens stood behind it in neat rows. They all looked very serious and formal. Jake walked out eating an apple. "Greetings, humans," the big reptile said. Its voice came through a translator device. "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Galactic Council. Welcome to civilization." "Hey," Jake said with his mouth half full. "Nice place you've got here." "I'm Jake Morrison. This is my ship and crew." Velthar's eyes blinked slowly. In 3,000 years of the Council's history, no species had ever started first contact by saying hey with their mouthful of food. "We have prepared living quarters for your group," Velthar continued, trying to recover. "There will be many meetings about laws, trade, and military rules." "Military rules?" Lisa asked. "Are we expecting trouble?" "No, Commander Grant, it is just the normal procedure. All species must tell us about their weapons and agree to certain limits." Jake and Lisa looked at each other. That look said a lot without using any words. "What kind of limits?" Jake asked carefully. Velthar led them to a conference room. The room was huge with floating displays showing maps of different alien territories. The presentation was long and detailed. It covered everything from trade taxes to how to properly ask for help from the Council's police forces. Jake raised his hand halfway through. "Yes, Captain Morrison? Quick question. You said most fights are solved by talking, and if that doesn't work, you have limited battles between military ships that follow specific rules." "That is correct." "What happens if someone doesn't follow the rules?" Velthar looked confused. "That would be wrong. The rules exist to keep casualties low and prevent things from getting worse. No civilized species would break them." Jake nodded slowly, making a mental note. Lisa was doing the same. "And these pirates you mentioned," Lisa said. "The ones attacking the outer colonies. How are you handling them?" "Through proper channels. We have filed complaints, set up patrol schedules, and started diplomatic talks with their homeworlds." "How long has this been going on?" Jake asked. "About 18 of your Earth months." Both humans stared at him. "You've been negotiating with pirates for a year and a half," Lisa said slowly. "Diplomacy takes time, Commander. We must consider everyone's complaints and find fair solutions." "They're pirates," Jake interrupted. "What complaints do pirates have besides wanting to steal stuff?" Velthar's scales ruffled in what might have been a shrug. "It is the civilized way." That evening, the senior crew gathered in the ship's dining area. Pete Carter, the chief engineer, spoke first. "Let me understand this. The galaxy is full of aliens who fight by rules, file paperwork before shooting at each other, and have been asking pirates nicely to stop for over a year." "That's the situation," Jake confirmed. Dr. Karen White, the ship's doctor, laughed. "They have no idea what they just invited into their club, do they?" "Not even close," Lisa agreed. Ryan Hughes, the weapons officer, leaned back in his chair. "Captain, are we really going to follow their rules?" Jake finished his coffee and put the cup down hard. "Ryan will smile and nod and follow every rule they have, right up until someone threatens Earth or innocent people. And then?" Pete asked. "And then they'll learn why you don't mess with humans." The word Deathworld wasn't something the humans knew yet, but they would learn it soon. It was what the Council secretly called Earth, a planet so dangerous that life shouldn't exist there at all. A world where the weather could kill you, The animals could kill you, the plants could poison you, and even tiny germs were deadly. A world that had created humans through constant danger. Humans who thought nothing of running into burning buildings to save people. Humans who jumped out of aircraft for fun. Humans who kept animals as pets that could easily kill them. The galaxy was about to learn a lot. Velthar made his report to the council that night. The humans seem friendly but very casual. Their captain doesn't act like a military officer. The crew seems more interested in our technology than our protocols. Council leader Zarthex was an ancient being whose species had founded the council thousands of years ago. They tilted their head thoughtfully. Casual, interesting. How dangerous do you think they are? Not very dangerous, Velthar replied. Their ship is well made but small. They have no fleet, no army, and seem very relaxed about galactic affairs. I believe they will fit in easily. Zarthex made a note in the official records. Later, this note would become famous as the most wrong threat assessment in council history. Very well. Continue with the standard procedures. Assign them a helper and begin trade talks. As Velthar left, Zarthex turned to their advisor. Alert the border patrols near human space. I want to know immediately if anything unusual happens. You suspect something? The advisor asked. I suspect nothing, but no species reaches space without overcoming big challenges. I want to know what those challenges were. The answer was currently sleeping peacefully on the horizon's edge, dreaming of exploration and new discoveries. They had no idea that in just 3 days they would accidentally change how the entire galaxy thought about warfare. All because of pirates. Bad timing and the human habit of helping people who were in trouble. No matter what the rules said. 3 days passed on the council station. Jake attended boring meetings about proper procedures. Lisa talked with alien engineers who were amazed by human technology. The rest of the crew explored the station, made new friends, and tried strange alien foods that sometimes made Dr. Karen White create new medicines. Everything was going fine. Then the emergency call came in. Jake was in another long meeting about communication rules when Amy burst through the door without knocking. Captain, we have a problem. Velthar looked annoyed at the interruption. Lieutenant Richardson, this meeting is important and we cannot just stop because you want to speak with your captain. Kelvar Prime is under attack, Amy said, ignoring the alien completely. Pirates. Multiple ships. They're hitting civilian stations. The room went silent. How long until Council peacekeepers arrive? Jake asked, already standing up. Velthar checked his computer pad. A response team is being put together. They should arrive in about 6 hours. 6 hours? Lisa stared at him. How far away is Kelvar Prime? 47 light minutes. Jake was already moving toward the door. Amy, get everyone back to the ship. Combat ready. Lisa, come with me. Captain Morrison, wait, Velthar called after them. You cannot just respond to a crisis without permission. There are protocols, proper chains of command, forms to file. Jake turned in the doorway. Ambassador, people are dying right now. We can be there in an hour? We're going, but you have no authorization, no backup. This breaks a dozen council rules about military action. Then file a complaint, Jake said. We'll read it later. 20 minutes later, the Horizon's Edge left the station without permission. Council traffic control kept calling them, getting more and more worried. Velthar watched from the command center with a bad feeling in his stomach. Should we try to stop them? His assistant asked. Velthar thought about the look in Jake Morrison's eyes when he heard people were in danger. It was not the look of someone who could be stopped. No, he said quietly, but tell the council. I think we're about to see something we've never seen before. The Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kelvar system. What they saw made several crew members curse. 5 pirate ships, each the size of a small space station, were destroying the platforms around Kelvar Prime. Debris floated everywhere. Small escape pods drifted in space between the planet and the attackers. Amy, what are we looking at? Jake asked. 5 enemy ships confirmed. They're using energy weapons, low power but continuous. Looks like they want to disable the stations, not destroy them. Probably planning to salvage them later. Life signs? Reading hundreds of civilians still on those platforms. The Kelvar are water breathers, so they can't use spacesuits. If those platforms lose life support, everyone dies. Lisa pulled up a tactical screen. Captain, our weapons are designed for defense and shooting asteroids. We have missiles, railguns, and 1 experimental plasma cannon that Pete promises won't explode when we use it. Probably won't explode. Pete's voice came over the speaker from the engine room. That's not comforting. Pete, Jake muttered. He studied the screen. 5 ships against 1. Bad odds by any math. Then again, humans had always been good at bad odds. Ryan, how accurate are those railguns? The weapons officer smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Very accurate, sir. Good. Here's what we're going to do. What happened next would be studied by military schools across the galaxy for years. Not because it was complicated, but because it broke every single rule the Council had made over 3,000 years. The Horizon's Edge flew straight toward the pirate fleet at full speed. The pirates noticed right away. Amy intercepted their communications. Unknown ship approaching. Who are they? New Council members. The humans. Just 1 ship? Confirmed. 1 small ship. Laughter came over the channel. They're either brave or stupid. Call them. Tell them to leave or die. Amy looked at Jake. He nodded. Attention pirate ships, Amy sent. This is the Earthship Horizon's Edge. You have 60 seconds to stop shooting and leave this system. More laughter came from the pirates. Or what, little human? You'll tell the Council on us? We've seen your kind before. All talk, all rules, no spine. Turn around and go home. Jake leaned forward. Amy, direct channel. No translation software. She switched frequencies. Listen carefully, Jake said in a cold voice. In 55 seconds, I'm going to start shooting. In 60 seconds, your ships are going to die. And when your friends ask what happened, the only thing you'll be able to tell them is that they really shouldn't mess with Earth. He cut the transmission. Distance? He asked. Entering firing range in 30 seconds, Ryan reported. The pirate ship started turning toward them, charging weapons. They were still laughing. Ryan, target their weapons first. Pete, all power to forward shields. Already done, Captain. Amy, record everything. I want proof we gave them a chance. Recording now. Lisa. His first officer smiled. Let's show them why Earth doesn't have pirates anymore. The pirates expected a slow naval battle following Council rules. Formal warnings, limited shooting, breaks for surrender talks. What they got was something their computers thought was a natural disaster. The Horizon's Edge opened fire. The first railgun shot, crossed space at nearly light speed and punched through the lead pirate ship's weapons like they were paper. The second and third shots followed instantly, each one hitting weapons, engines, and shields with perfect accuracy. The pirates had about 2 seconds to realize they were in serious trouble before everything fell apart. Second target, firing, Ryan said calmly. The railguns fired again. The second pirate ship lost its main engine and started spinning, air leaking from a dozen holes. They're trying to shoot back, Amy called out. Let them try, Jake said. Evasive pattern Delta 4. The Horizon's Edge wasn't built as a warship, but its engines were the best human engineering could make. The ship twisted and spun through patterns that made 3 crew members reach for medicine to help with the dizziness. The pirate shots missed by large distances. Third target is trying to run, Lisa reported. Amy, call them. Tell them if they power up weapons or go near those stations, we'll destroy their engines too. They're responding. Weapons shutting down. 2 pirate ships tried to get into better positions. Ryan's next shots removed that option by destroying their steering. One started tumbling slowly, completely helpless. The entire fight lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, 3 pirate ships were crippled and floating. One was running away as fast as it could. The last had surrendered and was calling for help. The crew of the Horizon's Edge sat quietly for a moment. Did we just win a 5 against 1 fight? Pete asked over the speaker. I think we did, Amy replied, sounding amazed. Damage report? Jake asked. Shields at 70%. Minor damage to the hull. 1 coolant line overheated, but Pete's team is already fixing it, Lisa said. No injuries. Jake nodded slowly. Amy, contact Kelver Prime. Let them know the danger is over and they can start rescue operations. Also send a report to the Council about what happened. Should I explain why we attacked? Amy asked carefully. Tell them the truth. We saw people in danger and we helped them. If that's against their rules, they can complain to Earth. An hour later, with Kelvar rescue ships helping the damaged stations and the pirate ships secured, Jake got a tense call from Ambassador Velthar. Captain Morrison, the Council wants to talk to you immediately. About what? Velthar's face was hard to read. About why you just did in 4 minutes what Council forces haven't done in 18 months. Oh. That. We saw pirates hurting people, so we stopped them. Pretty simple. Captain, you broke engagement rules, didn't ask for permission, ignored 7 direct orders to leave and, Velthar paused, and you saved 6,000 lives with 0 deaths on your side. Jake waited. The council is confused, Velthar finally said. Also angry, but mostly confused. They want to know how you beat 5 ships with 1. We shot them, Jake said simply. They shot at us. They missed. But the rules for limited fighting say you should not have shot like that or used those weapons or moved your ship in those ways, or targeted their systems so completely. Ambassador, I don't think you understand. We didn't do limited fighting. We did real combat. When humans fight, we fight to win as fast as possible. The faster it's over, the fewer people die. Velthar was quiet for a long time. Come back to the station, Captain. The council wants answers. Are we in trouble? Honestly, I have no idea. This has never happened before. As the Horizon's Edge flew back to the council station, nobody noticed that council leader Zarthex was searching every file they had on Earth. What they found kept them reading all night. Evolution shaped by ice ages and disasters. A species that survived terrible climate changes, huge animals that could kill them easily, and diseases that killed millions. A people who, instead of becoming afraid, became hunters on a planet already full of hunters. The file got a new label, one never used before in council history. Deathworld Origin Species. Use extreme caution, but it was too late for caution. The humans were already here. The council chamber was built to make people feel small. The ceiling was impossibly high. Giant screens showed maps of territories belonging to dozens of alien species. Seats arranged in a semicircle looked down at whoever stood in the center of the room. Jake Morrison stood in that center, wearing his cleanest work clothes and looked completely calm. Captain Morrison, council leader Zarthex began. Their voice came through a translator as something musical and strange. Do you understand why you are here? I'm guessing it's about the Kelvar Prime thing, Jake replied. Yes, you broke 17 council rules about military fighting. You ignored direct orders from station control. You attacked enemy ships without permission. And most seriously, you fought in a way completely different from galactic standards. Jake waited to see if there was more. When Zarthex stayed quiet, he spoke. And I saved 6,000 lives doing it. Whispers ran through the crowd of alien officials. Velthar, sitting in the front row, made a gesture that might have meant he felt sorry for Jake or that he agreed with him. Captain, Zarthex continued, I have been watching the battle recordings from your ship. Do you understand what you did wrong? Honestly, no. More whispers, louder this time. Zarthex showed a hologram of the fight. You opened fire after only 60 seconds of warning. Council rules require at least 30 minutes of negotiation. People were dying, Jake said simply. You targeted enemy ships to completely disable them. Rules say you should only shoot at shields to allow for surrender talks. They were shooting at civilians. You used kinetic weapons at speeds close to light speed. These are considered weapons of mass destruction and are banned in civilized warfare. Jake blinked in surprise. Our railguns? Those are mining tools. We use them to move asteroids. The council chamber exploded with noise. Officials were yelling in dozens of different languages. Zarthex called for quiet. Captain Morrison, Zarthex said once everyone calmed down. Are you telling this council that you turned work tools into weapons? No. I'm telling you our work tools can be used as weapons because asteroids don't stop when you ask them nicely. Lisa, standing beside Jake, put her hand over her face. They had talked about keeping that detail secret. This is wrong, one official shouted. Weapons of mass destruction used so casually. We saved people with them, Jake shot back. Would you rather we let those civilians die while we filled out forms? The proper rules exist for a reason, another official yelled. To prevent things from getting worse. To keep casualties low. 6,000 people are alive because we ignored your rules, Jake said, his voice getting harder. So forgive me if I'm not worried about forms and procedures right now. Zarthex raised a limb for silence. Captain, I must ask you directly. Do you have any respect for council authority? Jake thought about the question carefully. I respect the council's goals. Peace, cooperation, helping each other. Those are good things. But I respect the lives of innocent people more than I respect paperwork. If that's a problem, you should know that now. The chamber became completely silent, I see, Zarthex said slowly. Tell me, Captain, how does Earth handle pirates? We don't have pirates. You must have had them at some point in your history. Sure, and then we stopped having them. How? Jake's face was completely serious. We made it clear that being a pirate wasn't worth it anymore. Attack a civilian ship and armed ships would hunt you down. No negotiations, no long diplomatic solutions. Just consequences. You killed them all? An official asked, sounding horrified. Most gave up once they realized we were serious. The ones who didn't, well, they made their choice. Jake paused. Look, I'm not saying our way is perfect, but when someone is actively hurting people, we don't spend a lot of time talking about why they're doing it. We stop them first, then we can talk. Zarthex was quiet for a long moment. The council needs time to discuss this. Return to your ship and wait for our decision. As Jake and Lisa left the chamber, they could hear the argument starting behind them. It sounded intense. That went well, Lisa said sarcastically once they were in the hallway. Could have been worse. How? They're deciding whether to kick humanity out of the galactic community before we've even really joined. Jake shrugged. Then we'll know where we stand. Back on the horizon's edge, the crew met in the dining area. Jake told them about the council meeting. So we might be space outlaws now? Pete asked. That's either really cool or really bad. Probably both, Amy said. Dr. Karen White leaned back. You know what I notice? They're horrified that we used weapons of mass destruction, but they're not horrified that pirates operated freely for 18 months. Their priorities are backward. Different culture, Ryan suggested. Maybe they value order and rules over quick action. That works fine until someone needs quick action, Jake replied. Then what? Then they wait 6 hours for help while people die, Lisa said quietly. The communication system beeped. Amy answered. Horizon's Edge. Lieutenant Richardson, this is Ambassador Velthar. May I come to your ship? Unofficially. Jake and Lisa looked at each other. Permission granted, Ambassador. We'll meet you at the entrance. 20 minutes later, Velthar stood in the dining area looking uncomfortable. The crew had offered him a drink, but his species couldn't process human food or beverages, so he held an empty cup awkwardly. Captain Morrison, I need to explain something, Velthar began. The council is arguing about your actions, yes, but not in the way you think. What do you mean? Half the council wants to punish you for breaking rules. The other half wants to know how you beat 5 ships with 1. Velthar put down the cup. The Kelvar officials are demanding you get a medal. 3 other species who have suffered pirate attacks are asking for detailed battle reports, and Zarthex has been reading files on Earth history for 6 straight hours. That doesn't sound like we're getting kicked out, Lisa observed. No, it sounds like we're scared, Velthar said bluntly. Captain, do you know what a Deathworld is? A what? A planet so hostile that complex life should not exist there, much less thrive and become intelligent. Velthar pulled out a computer pad. Earth's air would be poisoned to 60% of council species. Your gravity would crush another 20%. Your weather includes storms that could destroy cities. Your native predators include animals that hunt prey bigger than themselves. Your oceans have thousands of species that use poison as defense. And, Jake asked, and you evolved there. You became the top species on a planet that is actively trying to kill everything on it. Velthar looked at each of them. The council has met 3 other Deathworld species in our history. 1 became our best warriors. 1 became our smartest scientists. The 3rd died out before reaching space. Which one are we? Pete asked. That is what the council is trying to figure out. Dr. Karen White laughed. Ambassador, we're explorers. We came out here to learn and make friends. You are explorers who just beat 5 pirate ships in 4 minutes using mining equipment. Velthar countered. Do you not see how that looks to us? Like we're good at using what we have? Amy suggested. Velthar's scales moved in what might have been frustration. Like you are a species that cannot tell the difference between peace and violence because both are just tools to you. The dining area went quiet. That's not completely wrong, Jake finally said. We prefer peace, but if violence is needed to protect people, we don't hesitate. Is that really so strange? To the council? Yes. Most species see violence as a last option, something shameful to avoid at almost any cost. Velthar gestured to the computer pad. You see it as just another choice, not good or bad on its own, judged only by whether it works. Because sometimes it is the best option, Lisa said. If those pirates had wanted to talk, we would have talked. They didn't. So we stopped them the fastest way we could. And that is why the council fears you, Velthar said. Because you make those decisions instantly without seeming to struggle with the moral questions. Jake stood and walked to the window, looking out at the council station. Ambassador, what do you think we should do? I think, Felthar said slowly, that you should be patient. The council needs time to adjust to your existence. Meanwhile, perhaps try to avoid any more dramatic displays of combat ability. We'll try, Jake promised. But if someone needs help and we can give it, we will help them no matter what the rules say. You will help them, rules be damned. Yes, I am starting to understand this about humans. Felthar moved toward the door, then stopped. Captain, one more thing. The pirates you disabled are being questioned. Do you know what they told us? What? That they thought you were bluffing. That no species would actually attack 5 ships with one. That such a thing was suicide. Felthar's eyes reflected the light strangely. They did not understand that humans see different odds than everyone else. After the ambassador left, the crew sat in silence. We scared them, Amy finally said. The whole council, just by being ourselves. Not scared, Ryan corrected. Confused. They don't know how to understand us yet. Then we'll just have to show them, Jake said. We're not warriors. We're not conquerors. We're humans and we help people. That's what we do. Even if it means breaking every rule they have? Pete asked. Jake smiled. Especially then. The galaxy was changing whether it was ready or not. The council's official decision came 3 days later. Humanity would get something called provisional membership, with special considerations for cultural differences. In simpler terms, the council was too afraid to kick humans out, and too curious not to study them more. Jake thought that was a win. What came next was a month of what the council called cultural integration, and what the crew of the Horizon's Edge called showing aliens that humans are mostly harmless. The first incident happened during a tour of the station. The council had arranged for different alien species to meet the humans, hoping that casual interaction would make everyone more comfortable. Everything was going smoothly until they reached the station's plant-growing area, where a Kelvar botanist was showing off their cultivation techniques. These plants require very exact environmental controls, the botanist explained, pointing at rows of delicate, glowing plants. Temperature change of more than 2 degrees will kill them. They must be pollinated by hand because they cannot handle the presence of insects, and they need water with a precise chemical balance. Why? Pete interrupted. The botanist blinked. I do not understand your question. Why grow something so difficult? Seems like a lot of work for a plant. They are a delicacy on my homeworld, the botanist said, sounding slightly offended. And they have medical uses. Huh. Pete walked over to the Earth section, a small area the station had given humanity. He pointed at a small pot where a tomato plant was growing. This is a tomato. It grows in dirt, any dirt really. Needs sunlight and water. You can forget about it for days and it'll be fine. And it makes fruit for months. But surely it requires careful care, the botanist asked. Nah, these things are basically weeds. We have to work to keep them from spreading everywhere. Pete picked a small tomato and offered it. Want to try one? The botanist, after checking that it was safe for their biology, took a careful bite. Their expression changed completely. This is delicious. And you say it grows with almost no care? Yeah, we have thousands of types. Different colors, sizes, tastes. We've been growing them for centuries, mostly by just putting seeds in the ground and seeing what happens. Word spread fast. Within hours, alien botanists crowded around the earth plant section, amazed by species that thrived, despite being ignored rather than because of careful attention. Your plants are as tough as your people, one researcher commented. Well, yeah, Amy replied. We kind of had to be. Earth doesn't let you succeed by being fragile. The second incident was more dramatic. The station's exercise area had equipment where different species maintained their fitness according to their needs. Most species had gentle workout routines with controlled movements, careful stretches, and monitored health signs. Then the humans started using it. Lisa was the first to cause alarm. She arrived in exercise clothes and walked to what the aliens used as a strength training machine. A Corellian, roughly human-shaped but more delicate, was showing the proper way to lift a weight that was challenging for his species. May I try? Lisa asked. Of course. This is set to 70% of my body weight. It should give a moderate workout. Lisa lifted it with one hand, barely trying. Do you have anything heavier? 10 minutes later, Lisa was lifting what amounted to 3 times her body weight, while a crowd of shocked aliens watched. Ryan had joined her and was doing pull-ups on a bar that was only meant for hanging stretches. "This is impossible," a station doctor said, upset. "The forces you are putting on your body should damage your bones." "Nah, we evolved to run down animals over long distances," Ryan explained between exercises. "Humans are basically endurance hunters. This is light work compared to what our ancestors did." "Your ancestors?" "Yeah, we used to hunt by just jogging after animals until they collapsed from exhaustion, sometimes for days." The station doctor made several worried notes. Things got worse when Jake showed up and suggested a friendly competition. What followed was the first human-organized sporting event on the station, with obstacle courses, relay races, and what Jake called basic parkour. Aliens watched in horror as humans jumped from high platforms, rolled through tight spaces, and climbed surfaces that weren't meant to be climbed. Several species filed formal complaints about reckless danger before learning that humans did this for fun. "For fun?" Ambassador Velthar asked Jake afterward. "You risk injury for entertainment?" "Sure, it's how we bond. Plus it keeps us sharp." Jake noticed Velthar's expression. "Is that weird?" "Captain, most species' idea of entertainment does not involve potential hospital visits." But the third incident was what really changed how the Council saw humanity. It started with a maintenance accident. A power connection on one of the station's outer sections failed badly, venting air from an area that held a research laboratory. 32 scientists from various species were trapped with emergency doors sealed but limited oxygen. The station's emergency team assembled immediately. Their procedure was well established. Check the breach, evacuate nearby sections, assess the damage, design a repair plan, do the repair, then rescue the trapped people. Expected time needed was 4 to 6 hours. Expected oxygen for the trapped scientist was 3 hours. The emergency coordinator was explaining this timeline when Jake Morrison walked into the command center. "We can get them out faster," he said. "Captain Morrison, this is not your business. Please return to your quarters and let us handle this emergency situation properly." "How are you planning to reach them?" Jake interrupted. "Through the maintenance tunnel once it is confirmed to be safe. That'll take too long." "What if someone went outside and cut through the outer wall?" The command center went silent. "That would be suicide," the coordinator finally said. "The breach area is unstable. The damaged power connection is still releasing energy, and the outer wall is reinforced metal 5 inches thick." "But possible?" Jake pressed. "Theoretically, but no sane person would attempt such a thing, and we have no equipment designed for that specific purpose, and the risk to the rescuers would be unacceptable." Jake was already on his communication device. "Pete, grab the plasma torch and 2 spacesuits. Meet me at airlock 7. "Captain, I cannot give permission for this," the coordinator protested. "You don't have to. We're volunteers." Jake turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and you might want to have the medical bay ready, just in case." 15 minutes later, Jake and Pete were outside the station in spacesuits, magnetic boots keeping them attached to the hull as they moved toward the damaged section. Behind them, connected by safety lines, Ryan and Lisa followed with equipment. "This is crazy," Pete said cheerfully as they went around a field of crackling energy. "Probably," Jake agreed. "How thick did they say this wall was?" "With our torch? 20 minutes if we're lucky. We have 90 minutes before those people run out of air. Let's be lucky." Inside the command center, aliens watched the humans work through external cameras. What they saw made no sense. 4 beings deliberately putting themselves in danger? Moving through an area that sensors said was deadly. Working with equipment not designed for this exact job. "They are going to die," someone whispered. Velthar, who had come to the command center, shook his head slowly. "No, watch how they move. They are afraid, but they do not stop. This is what humans do." The plasma torch burned in the vacuum, cutting through metal designed to resist space debris impacts. Jake and Pete worked in turns, one cutting while the other watched the surrounding energy discharges and structural problems. "Almost through," Pete reported. 30 seconds. Oxygen status for the trapped people?" Lisa asked over the communication system. "Critical levels," the command center responded. "They have perhaps 20 minutes left." "Then we have 20 minutes, Jake said simply. The final section of wall came free with a shower of molten metal. Jake immediately pulled it away and looked into the laboratory. 32 aliens stared back at him, different species, all of them on the edge of suffocation. "Hi there," Jake said. "Sorry about the dramatic entrance. Let's get you folks out of here." What followed was a carefully managed evacuation. They tied unconscious scientists to safety lines, passed them through the opening, and pulled them along the outside of the station to the nearest working airlock. The humans worked with quiet efficiency, their training and natural problem-solving combining to handle a situation the Council had thought nearly impossible to solve. 73 minutes after the breach, all 32 scientists were safe. Jake and his team came back inside exhausted, slightly burned by radiation, but victorious. The command center exploded with noise. Half the staff wanted to give the humans medals. The other half wanted to arrest them for breaking about 40 different safety rules. Zarthex ended the argument by arriving in person. "Captain Morrison," the council leader said, "you disobeyed direct orders again." "We saved 32 people," Jake replied, "at great risk to yourselves." "That's kind of what rescue work is, isn't it?" Zarthex studied the human carefully. "Your species has been on this station for 1 month. In that time you have defeated 5 pirate ships, changed our understanding of Deathworld biology, caused 3 diplomatic incidents, and now this." They paused. "Do you ever consider the results of your actions?" "All the time," Jake said. "That's why we do them." The result of not acting was 32 dead. That evening, the council made 2 announcements. The first gave the Horizon's Edge crew official awards for the rescue. The second was more important. The council was creating a group to review engagement rules, emergency procedures, and military thinking. The leader of that group would be Ambassador Velthar, with orders to talk extensively with human experts. 3 months passed. The humans continued their work in Kelvar space, protecting the outer colonies from pirates. Word spread quickly through the criminal networks. Attack a place the humans were protecting and you would regret it. Most pirates simply avoided those areas entirely. Then the Kelvar delegation arrived at the council station with a request. "The outer colonies are still vulnerable," Ambassador Grelnak explained. She was a tall Kelvar, nearly 7 feet, with blue-green scales and the presence of someone used to being in charge. "The pirates have returned, more careful now, but still a threat. We would like to hire your ship for security." Jake sat across from her in a conference room, trying to understand what she was asking. "Hire us? We're explorers, not soldiers for hire." "You are people who help other people," Grelnak corrected. "That is what we need. The council peacekeepers are adequate, but they follow rules that the pirates have learned to use against them. You do not follow those same rules." "That's one way to put it," Lisa muttered. "Captain Morrison," Grelnak leaned forward, "in 1 month you have done more to secure Kelvar space than the council accomplished in a year. The pirates fear you. My people admire you, and we need you." "We'd have to ask our government," Jake began. "We already did. They were very positive." Grelnak showed a communication display with an official Earth government message. "Your authorities see this as an excellent chance for cooperative security programs and cultural exchange." "Politicians," Jake sighed. "They never change no matter the species, so you'll help?" Jake looked at Lisa, who shrugged. "We came out here to explore and make friends. This seems like a good way to do both." "Then yes," Jake told Grelnak. "We'll help. But we do things our way." "Captain, I am counting on that." The work in Kelvar space went well. Pirates learned quickly that attacking colonies under human protection was a bad idea. The Horizon's Edge didn't just defeat pirate ships. They made examples of them, spreading recordings of every engagement to show what happened to those who threatened civilians. It was effective. Maybe too effective. 3 months into the security contract, Zarthex summoned Jake again. This time the council chamber had visitors. 3 massive beings in powered armor, each one moving with controlled danger. "Captain Morrison," Zarthex began, "let me introduce Commander Krelvon and his officers of the Kryn warrior clans." Jake studied the newcomers. Even through the armor, he could see they were predators. Every movement was economical and purposeful. One of them was studying him with equal intensity. "Captain," Krelvan said, his voice a deep rumble, "we have been watching your operations with great interest." "I've heard of your people," Jake replied. "The Council's main military force. Elite warriors from a death world. As are you, it seems." Krelvan stepped closer. "We would like to propose a joint training exercise." Every warning in Jake's head went off at once. This was what Zarthex had been trying to prevent. "What kind of exercise?" "The kind where we learn from each other. You have tactics we have never seen, methods that make no sense to us. And we have 3,000 years of combat experience to share." Zarthex interrupted. Captain Morrison, you are not required to accept this request. Why not? Jake asked. Because, Zarthek said carefully, the Kryn are already very capable. Adding human unpredictability to their abilities would create something the galaxy has never seen. Jake looked between the council leader and the Kryn commander. You're afraid we'd be too effective together. I am afraid, Zarthex admitted, that you would be unstoppable, and power without control is dangerous regardless of good intentions. We don't want power, Jake said. We want to help people. Then help us, Krelvan said. Teach us your methods. Learn from ours. Together we could protect those who cannot protect themselves far more effectively than either species alone. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Finally he turned to Zarthex. Give us both orders. Set rules we must follow, and let us show you what we can do within those limits. Zarthex considered this a compromise. How very diplomatic, Captain. I'm learning. The joint training exercise happened in a simulated star system using the Council's most advanced wargame technology. The scenario was a civilian station under attack by a superior enemy force. The goal was to protect the civilians and stop the threat with minimal deaths. On one side was the Horizon's Edge crew, representing human tactics. On the other was a Kryn strike force, representing traditional military thinking. Both sides had identical resources. The simulation began. The Kryn's approach was textbook perfect. Establish a defensive position, engage the enemy at maximum distance, coordinate fire to systematically disable hostile ships, evacuate civilians during the fight. It was efficient, professional, and took 43 minutes. The human approach was controlled chaos. The Horizon's Edge immediately charged straight at the enemy fleet, broadcasting that anyone who didn't leave would be sorry. When the enemy didn't leave, the humans used every trick possible, hiding behind civilian stations to prevent return fire, using debris as weapons, ramming damaged enemy ships to disable them faster, and at one point deliberately venting their own air to convince the enemy they were crippled before attacking the ships that came to investigate. It was unpredictable, borderline reckless, and took 11 minutes. After the simulation ended, both teams met in the briefing room. The Kryn were staring at the humans with expressions that roughly translated to complete confusion. Captain Morrison, Krelvan finally said, your tactics broke about 60% of standard military rules. But they worked, Jake pointed out. Yes, disturbingly well. Krelvan showed the simulation data. You minimized civilian deaths by making yourselves the obvious target. You avoided a long fight by appearing more dangerous than you actually were, and you accepted damage to your own ship to achieve faster victory. That last part is called taking one for the team, Lisa explained. Humans do it a lot. One of the other Kryn warriors, a female officer named Sharvik, leaned forward. But what if the enemy had not been intimidated? What if they had seen through your bluff? Then we would have fought them for real, Ryan said simply. The important thing was ending it fast. The civilians had maybe 30 minutes of life support. We didn't have time for a proper battle. You chose tactics based on time limits rather than military advantage, Krelvan said slowly, as if the concept was completely foreign. Sure, the goal wasn't to win perfectly. The goal was to save people quickly. The room was silent as the Kryn thought about this. Run it again, Krelvan finally said. This time Kryn forces will use human tactics. Humans, you use ours. The second simulation was educational. The Kryn, trying to copy human unpredictability, kept accidentally going back to proper military discipline. The humans, trying to follow doctrine, kept breaking formation to improvise solutions. Both sides failed their objectives, though for different reasons we cannot think like you, Krelvan admitted after. Our training is too deep, and we can't not improvise, Jake said. It's automatic. Then perhaps, Sharvik suggested, we should not try to copy each other. Perhaps we should combine our different strengths. The third simulation had mixed teams. Kryn provided structure, discipline, and heavy firepower. Humans provided unpredictability, rapid response, and creative problem-solving. The result was devastating. The enemy fleet didn't last 7 minutes. Watching from the observation room, Zarthex turned to Velthar. This is what I feared and hoped for? Velthar suggested. Perhaps both. Zarthex showed data comparisons. Alone, each species is capable. Together, they are exponentially more effective. If this partnership spreads across the galaxy, it will change everything. The The question is whether that change is good. Let us find out. The joint training continued for 2 months, gradually including other species. The Corellians added sensor expertise. The Vorash contributed electronic warfare abilities. The Kelvar provided specialists for water environments. What emerged was not a military force in the traditional sense. It was something new. A rapid response group that combined the best parts of multiple species' approaches to crisis management. They called it the Frontier Guard. Its mission was simple: protect those who needed protection, without waiting for permission or protocols. The Council carefully approved the program. With conditions. You will operate under Council oversight, Zarthex told Jake and Krelvan during the official meeting. You will file mission reports. You will respect territorial boundaries. And above all, you will remember that your purpose is protection, not conquest. We're not conquerors, Jake said. Just helpers with really good aim. Nevertheless, the restrictions stand. Do you accept them? Jake and Krelvan looked at each other. Despite their very different backgrounds, they had found common ground. Both cared more about results than recognition. Both valued action over discussion. And both had been shaped by death worlds that didn't tolerate weakness. 3 years passed since the Frontier Guard was formed. What started as an experiment between humans and Kryn had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. Ships from a dozen species now wore the Guard symbol. They had responded to over 200 emergencies. Piracy in Council space had dropped to almost nothing. Response times to disasters had been cut by 70%, and humanity had earned a new reputation, not as warriors or dangerous deathworld creatures, but as the species that helped. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a new ship. Not the Horizon's Edge anymore, but the Unity, designed specifically for rapid response work. His crew was mixed now, humans and aliens working side by side like they had always been together. Contact, Amy Richardson announced. She was Commander Richardson now, head of communications for the entire Guard. Distress call from the Rillian sector. Massive solar flare about to hit 3 colony worlds. Time to impact? Jake asked, already moving to his command station. 90 minutes. Kryn vessels? 2 in range, both moving to help, Commander Krelvan reported from his ship. The Kryn had become the Guard's heavy response division. They rarely needed to fight anymore. Mostly, they helped evacuate people and provided security during disasters. Corellian science vessels? Deploying solar shields now? Came the response. Jake smiled. 3 years ago, this would have been a catastrophe with thousands dead. Now it was just another Tuesday. Just another group of people who needed help. All ships execute Operation Sunrise. Let's get those people to safety. The Unity and her escort ships jumped into faster-than-light travel, racing against a star's fury. On the Council station, Zarthex watched the operation unfold through real-time information feeds. Beside them, Velthar was making notes for his latest report to the Council. You were right to be afraid, Velthar said quietly. And right to hope, Zarthex added. Look at them. A dozen species working as one, led by humans and Kryn. 3 years ago, this would have been impossible. What changed? We did, or rather the humans changed us. They reminded us that rules serve people, not the other way around. That sometimes the right thing to do is also the fast thing to do. Zarthex made a note in the official records. The galaxy needed them. We just didn't know it. And now we cannot imagine existing without them. 91 minutes later, the Rillian colonies were safe. The solar flare had been redirected using the shields. The population had been evacuated to protected stations. And the Guard ships were already moving to their next emergency. Jake sat in his command chair, drinking coffee that somehow tasted the same whether made on Earth or in a ship built 300 light years away. Captain, Amy said, we have a message from Earth Command. They want a status report on the Guard's growth. Tell them everything's fine. We're still just helping people. Just on a bigger scale now. Anything else? Jake thought about the journey that brought him here. 1 ship, 1 crew, 1 decision to help people in need despite the rules that said to wait. Yeah. Tell them the galaxy is a pretty nice place. Full of good people who just needed someone to show them that sometimes helping is more important than following procedures. Will do, sir. The changes went beyond just the Frontier Guard. The Council itself had changed. New protocols had been written. Emergency response procedures had been completely redesigned. The idea of waiting hours for help while people died had become unthinkable. Other changes were more subtle. but just as important. Species that had never worked together before now trained side by side. The careful barriers between military and civilian operations had blurred. The rigid hierarchy that had defined council operations for thousands of years had become more flexible, and it was all because humans had shown up and refused to accept that things had to stay the way they were. Ambassador. Velthar stood in front of a class of young council officers from various species. This was his job now, teaching the next generation of peacekeepers and emergency responders. Teaching them the lessons humanity had brought to the galaxy. The old way, he explained, was to follow procedures precisely, to value order and predictability above all else. We thought this made us civilized. We thought this kept us safe. He pulled up a hologram of the Kelvar Prime incident from 3 years ago. Then the humans arrived, and in 4 minutes they accomplished what we had failed to do in 18 months. Not because they were stronger or had better weapons, but because they saw people in danger and helped immediately. A young Corellian officer raised a limb. But Ambassador, didn't they break the rules? Yes, they broke 17 major regulations in that single engagement, and they saved 6,000 lives doing it. Velthar paused. The question you must ask yourself is this: which is more important? Following rules that were written for different situations, or saving the lives in front of you right now? The class was quiet, thinking. The humans taught us something we had forgotten. Velthar continued. Rules are tools. Procedures are guidelines. They exist to help us make good decisions quickly. But they are not more important than the reasons we created them in the first place. He showed another hologram. This one of the Unity and its escort ships working together to save the Rillian colonies. Look at this operation. 12 species all working as one unit. No lengthy authorization processes. No debates about jurisdiction. No waiting for someone higher up to make a decision. They saw people who needed help and they helped. Velthar looked at each student. This is what the galaxy can be when we remember what truly matters. Another student, a young Kryn, spoke up. But how do we know when to follow rules and when to break them? That, Velthar said, is the question humans seem to answer instinctively. And it is what we must learn. They have a saying on Earth, let me see if I can translate it properly. He thought for a moment. Better to ask forgiveness than permission. The class made various sounds of surprise and concern. I know, Velthar said with what might have been amusement. It sounds dangerous, reckless even. But think about what it really means. It means taking responsibility for your decisions. It means trusting yourself to do the right thing, even if others might disagree. It means valuing results over process. He turned off the holograms. You are the future of council operations. You will face situations where the rules don't quite fit, where the procedures don't account for what's actually happening. When that happens, remember the humans. Remember that rules serve people, not the other way around. Back on the Unity, Jake was having a similar conversation with some of the younger Guard members. A mix of species, all of them eager to learn, all of them wanting to help. The key thing, Jake explained, is to always ask yourself what you're trying to achieve. If you're following a rule because it helps you save people faster or better, great, follow that rule. But if you're following a rule just because it's a rule, and it's getting in the way of helping someone, then maybe that rule needs to be reconsidered. But who decides? Asked a young Kelvar officer. You do. That's the scary part. Jake smiled. Every one of you will face moments where you have to choose. Follow the procedure and maybe people get hurt, or improvise, take a risk and maybe save everyone. He paused. We can't tell you what to choose. We can only tell you to choose based on what matters most. And what matters most? The Kelvar asked. People. Always people. Lisa Grant, now Executive Commander of the Frontier Guard, walked into the briefing. Captain, we have the yearly statistics compiled. Jake looked at the data she projected. It was impressive. Response times down. Casualties down. Successful operations up. Species cooperation at all-time highs. We did good work, he said simply. We did. And it's growing. 4 more species have requested to join the Guard. The Council is proposing we expand to cover the entire Outer Rim. Lisa sat down. Jake, 3 years ago we were just trying to show aliens that humans could play nice. Now we're fundamentally changing how the galaxy operates. Is that a bad thing? No, it's just bigger than I expected. Lisa smiled. Remember when our biggest concern was whether Velthar would file enough complaints to get us kicked out? Simpler times. Jake looked at the star map showing guard operations across Council space. Think we're doing it right? I think we're doing it human. And apparently that's exactly what the galaxy needed. A new alert came in. A mining station in the Vorash sector reporting equipment failure. Not an emergency, but potentially dangerous if left unattended. Response team? Amy asked. Send the Endeavor. They're closest, and this seems like a good training mission for their new crew members. Acknowledged. Jake watched the icon representing the Endeavor change course toward the Vorash sector. 3 years ago, that ship didn't exist. The crew flying it hadn't met. The idea of mixed-species rapid response teams was just a theory. Now it was normal. Just another day in the new galaxy. Zarthex had been right to be both afraid and hopeful. The humans had brought change. Massive, fundamental, irreversible change. But it was good change. Change that made the galaxy safer. Change that made species work together better. Change that reminded everyone why they had formed the Council in the first place. Not to create rules and procedures, but to help each other, to protect the weak, to build something better together than any species could build alone. The Deathworld,